I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. We have made it. It is draft night. We could not be more excited to kick this bad boy off. Have a quick episode today. We're going to go over NFL draft props, and then there's been some NFL news that has happened since before me and Matt started recording, but before since the last time you heard me and Matt record is actually probably the way I should have worded that. Before we jump into that, Dennis and Matt, how you guys doing on this beautiful Thursday?
Man, I am just so glad I don't have to keep looking busy anymore today. I was running out of steam trying to look busy, and all I could think was what's going on. I'm checking Twitter every 10 seconds to see if anything's happening. And as the day went on, now we got the Aaron Rodgers stuff, and I keep holding steady to my Justin Fields at number 2 against all odds. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'm looking forward to a great draft night.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting day. Draft day is always fun, but it seems like there are a lot of potential unknowns that could make the first round even more exciting.
What's up, Hollywood?
Yeah. We've got obviously there is a massive story going on right now, so we'll just jump right in and talk about it. If you guys have missed it, you must be living under a rock. Trey Lance is now the betting favorite to be picked at 3. So, is that what you thought we were going to talk about? Is that not the news, Matt? I'm confused. You looked a little.
I mean, that's some news.
Aaron Rodgers, I shouldn't say likely. Reports are that he wants out of Green Bay. I've seen multiple different people talking about multiple different things, whether it's he wants out, he's wanted out for a while. The front office said that they would trade him this offseason and then didn't trade him, so things have gotten bad. It's just a shit show right now, and it is not looking good. What makes it more interesting is there's been reports that San Francisco has reached out and offered their number 3 pick to send there to Green Bay, or the 1.3 in this draft. I would imagine they're trying to include other things, but that being the highlight of the package, and San Francisco has already turned them down.
That report the other day was that San Francisco thought there was 5 different quarterbacks that would work for them. We just didn't realize one of those was Aaron Rodgers.
Well, it doesn't look like it's going to work for him. I don't know. They've already turned them down, but maybe it's just because I think he's probably not even one of the best quarterback I've ever seen play. Again, I know that sounds crazy to some people, but I think he's better than Tom Brady, skill-wise at least, not championship-wise, but skill-wise. I believe he is better than Tom Brady. It's just odd to think that he might end up on a different team. Like, what does this all mean, Dennis? What should we be thinking right now?
Well, Eddie George is a Cowboy. Emmitt Smith is a Cardinal. Jerry Rice is a Raider. Joe Montana is a Chief. They all end up on. Peyton Manning is a Bronco, for God's sake. It's just he's 37 years old. He's still got it much more than, say, Peyton Manning did. But he's frustrated with the situation, I think, and he wants out. I don't know how likely a trade is. If I had to choose whether he gets traded or retires, I think right now I lean retire. And that's not including staying in Green Bay. We still have 4 months of offseason left, so there's still plenty of time. There's a huge cap hit if they trade him now. I think $37 million in dead money. If they wait till after June 1, much like with Julio Jones. So there's definitely opportunities to do something later in the summer. But right now, he's clearly disgruntled, whether it's over them drafting Love last year and not getting him any help. Unfortunately, the part of that I don't buy that much is that he doesn't, much like most veteran quarterbacks, they don't put a lot of weight on their rookie receivers. It usually takes them a couple years to, get confident in them. We'll see. It's certainly going to be something to watch over the next couple days, few months.
I would think the way their season ended probably rankled Aaron Rodgers more than what happened at the draft last year, because it seemed like throughout the season they kind of got back on a good track, on a good page. They had a pretty successful season, but the way it ended, it's been a while, so maybe we forget, but that post-game press conference, I was sending you guys clips. The way he talked, he seemed very despondent, and maybe that at the time we thought, is he about to retire? And maybe that really is the thing. He hasn't gotten over that. Supposedly there's been some negative interactions on NFL radio. When I was coming in, they said that the team had reached out to Aaron Rodgers earlier in the offseason and asked him to restructure and take a pay cut to give them more salary cap space. So if you were already kind of not that pleased, that probably wouldn't have made him feel a whole lot better. It's going to be an interesting situation to watch. I've heard people talk about the Packers, if they do think that it can't be repaired and want to trade him, they'll probably never get more than what they're going to get tonight, because you can potentially get a high first-round draft pick and pick your own basically quarterback to come in and replace. I also wonder, they spent a first-round pick on Jordan Love, so maybe they're getting another one. How do they feel? I'm sure, Matt, you would have a better handle on how you think Jordan Love compares to any of the potential top 5 here, but
not great, Bob. Not great.
Yeah. So Jordan Love really feels even worse than he did last year on draft night. But
yeah,
it's a weird situation. It's the only thing right now I feel good about in the draft is we're probably going to hear Trevor Lawrence's name called at Jacksonville. And then after that, I feel like anything could happen. They're talking about the Saints are apparently really aggressively trying to move into the top 10 right now, which would make you think that they're riding the 2 options they have right now, but giving themselves some other options.
Apparently Washington might as well here. So it's going to be...
Washington should, though. I mean, I think
agree.
Fitzmagic is good for this year. I think that was a great signing. I'm not thinking Taylor Heineke is the...
So I agree with you 100% that this is probably Green Bay's best shot at getting the most that they're going to get and give them some kind of... If they believe Jordan Love... Matt LaFleur, although the 4th and 3 decision still is confusing to me, as apparently it was to Jeopardy and everybody else in the world still, I do believe that if he thinks Jordan Love can be a good quarterback, at least in his system, that Jordan Love can possibly succeed being there in Green Bay. So it gives them, depending on what they're able to get for Aaron Rodgers, many different ways that they could go in the draft. So I guess if you had to cap it with the percentage, Dennis, what percentage would you put on it that Rodgers' move tonight?
I say it's pretty low tonight. In part, I mean, it doesn't help them from a cap situation. As much as they may want to move him, the easiest thing for the Green Bay Cap is for him to retire. Then that I don't think they suffer any negative impact from the salary cap. I thought
you when a player retired like that, it accelerated the signing bonus onto the
right. But it doesn't. Then it's going to be over. Right now, there's dead cap plus salary. So I don't know. It's a situation where he's not going anywhere tonight. As fun as something like that might be for us, for fantasy, and I don't roster too many shares of Aaron Rodgers, so I don't know how. I would probably only be impacted if he went, like, say, to Washington, where I've got a couple shares of Fitzpatrick that I'm sitting on right now, needing to rely on at least early in the season. He's going to be a disgruntled Green Bay Packer for the foreseeable future. Is it Andrew Brink? I just saw a tweet from said that he doesn't feel like, Andrew Brandt, that he doesn't think Rodgers is going anywhere this season.
I'm going to say I feel like it's 50-50.
All right. So I feel it's I guess I would go 60-40 not happening. I think there's a better shot that he doesn't get traded. But again, maybe it's because I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the fact that he could actually be gone and move somewhere. I do think that the money matters, but if the one thing we don't know is we can only go based on reports that we hear that Rodgers is like dead set on not coming back. So if Green Bay really thinks that, then I agree with what you said earlier, Matt, that they've got to make that move, in my opinion, tonight, because this is going to be their best shot to get anything close. And you're not going to get the value back of what an Aaron Rodgers is getting. We were talking in our group chat. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame player. You're not going to get, and he still is. Maybe he's not a Hall of Fame player right now, though I'd argue he's still pretty damn close. He's not far removed from that skill base. So I think you're never going to get that amount of value back, but you could at least come somewhat close. It's not going to be the only night that you get that shot. So the next big trade affects your Broncos there, Matt. Happened a couple nights ago. Teddy Bridgewater is being traded for a 6th-round pick from the Broncos.
Yeah, that was yesterday. They've said pretty much all offseason that they wanted to get some kind of veteran competition in with Drew Lock, and that didn't happen in free agency. We know they tried to make a run at Fitzpatrick. I do believe they made an offer for Matthew Stafford that didn't work out. So the beat reporters here, ever since the Darnold trade, have been speculating that Denver was trying to get Teddy Bridgewater. That a big sticking point was they wanted Carolina to pay a big chunk of the salary, which Carolina did, and so the trade went through. I know some people think that doesn't change the possibility of them drafting a quarterback. I think it does. I think they're more likely to draft either a lineman or a defensive need or trade back.
My thoughts on it, and I was talking in a chat about this, listening to somebody say it, and he said that what he thought is that Locke is going to get the shot. They're going to give him the opportunity, but that there's a little gunslinger in Locke, and he can be erratic, and he hasn't proven it yet, and that basically they're going to give Locke the shot to go out there and prove it. And if he doesn't, then they feel like they've got steady, safe Teddy sitting back there that'll be able to step right in, take over, and not make mistakes. For all the crap Teddy gets for not being quote unquote exciting. I mean, the Carolina wide receivers last year were like, I think 21, 23, and 25 or something right there in fantasy points. So they were producing, and that was without Christian McCaffrey. So I don't know that I would panic if Teddy does end up in the starter's seat. I don't know. I'm probably more nervous for the women of Denver with Big Cock Lock and Teddy Tripod running around out there.
Good Lord. We've reached a new demographic tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see because we obviously did mocks for the Huddle Report. And Matt, I don't know if you looked at mine. I had Justin Fields going to Denver. I really think there's a shot that happens. I'm curious as if he falls to them if they still take him or not. I would think that they might. I think I still believe in Drew Lock. Matt, me and you kind of talked about this a little bit on Monday's show. If Bridgewater does go there and he ends up starting, I think it doesn't really do much for the weapons around them. I think it more just kind of keeps their floor at a decent spot, if that makes sense. Like I don't think Teddy Bridgewater comes in and kills a Cortland Sutton, a Noah Fant, a Jerry Jeudy. I actually think he's more, he's a better quarterback than some of the quarterbacks they had going out there this past season in Denver. So I actually think he keeps their floor fairly safe moving into the 2021 season. I think, we talked about it before. I think it was more of a bringing it in to give someone to compete with Drew Lock to possibly push him forward. But I think that Fields pick could be very interesting if he is able to fall there, if Denver ends up going that way or goes to Micah Parsons, like I know you've kind of wanted them to, Matt, since the very first mock that we did.
I think if they take a quarterback in the first round at this point, George Patton gets fired before the season starts.
We think so, Hollywood. I think if Fields is still on the board by their pick, they might still go Fields. I don't know if they would Mac Jones. And I mean, I don't know. Trey Lance is it seems like everybody's kind of all over the place on Trey Lance. I think he's going to be a very good prospect, but I wouldn't be surprised if Denver passes on him. But if Justin Fields is there, and maybe again, it's a little bit of my bias, but I think Fields is closer to Lawrence than anybody else in this draft class. So for me, if he was on the board, I'd seriously consider taking him there at 9. So, right? 9? I'm not right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought. All right. Last but not least, and probably the most unexciting news so far of this weekend or this week, the Bucks re-signed AB, and they are literally running it back with everybody. He was the last player on that entire team that
they've actually added some people. It's not even just running it back with everybody. It's also I don't know if you saw my tweet yesterday. We haven't even had the draft, and already these are the potentially fantasy relevant players that Tampa Bay is rostering: Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller, Rob Gronkowski. They renegotiated to keep Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard coming back, Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, Giovanni Bernard, and Keyshawn Vaughn. And who knows what they're going to add in the next 3 days. It's just, I would wager people have all those players, maybe not Cameron Brate, held somewhere in fantasy. And it's great for NFL, but what a nightmare.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I agree, Hollywood, on a great re-signing for the Buccaneers as a team in the NFL. I don't think it's a great thing for fantasy, as Matt was just kind of mentioning there. In the 7 games that those three played together, Mike Evans' highest finish was wide receiver 17, Chris Godwin 25, Antonio Brown, it was 50-something. There was one game, week 17, I believe it was, Antonio Brown had a really good game, but Mike Evans was out. He did not play in that game. Godwin missed a couple of games as well. Now, Evans still finished very high in the season, but that was because he also had how many touchdowns did he have again? I did not write down. He had double digits. I think it was 11, if I remember correctly, 11 or 13. Matt's going to look for me really quick because he's got that fast-working computer.
It was 13.
13. So the other thing you'll say, but I don't know if you have his career stats up, but I'm pretty sure you can back me up on this.
Yes, that was much high. He had 12 as a rookie, 12 in his third year, but most years he's had between 3 and 8. He had
That's
61
what I was about to say.
Total.
If you look at it, every year that he scored the double digits, he dropped down to, I believe it's 3 to 5 touchdowns the year after that. So don't expect a big year out of Mike Evans now. That was my point of getting around to that. It's finally going to happen. That's why I've never been on Mike Evans every other year.
Years after scoring 13 touchdowns did he have Tom Brady as his quarterback?
I mean, he had James Winston. Winston.
And before that, he had God's gift to quarterbacking Josh Freeman. So
Winston's God's gift on the fantasy side, at least. Now, I don't mean it as a bad thing towards Evans. I just mean the fact that he just seems to, I don't want to say take a regression. You can't count on touchdowns. And that's what buoyed him up there to be that top. Yeah. That's what buoyed him up there this year into being, I believe he finished as wide receiver 11 in PPR scoring. So he had a good year. Dennis, does this worry you at all? AB coming back with this entire offense. I mean, it's rare to see teams run it back as it is, but they definitely seem primed to at least make the playoffs again.
Yeah, I think they'll roll. There'll be some inconsistency with who has the big weeks, but I do think that from the wide receiver perspective, Evans is the touchdown threat. He's the air yards. He gets a lot of flack for not having a whole lot of run after the catch. But, when you're catching it 45 yards down the field and it's being contested and you're getting knocked out of bounds after your feet touch down, you're not going to get a whole bunch of yards after the catch. That's just not his deal. So, but he still gains over 1,000 yards every year. I would probably not expect him to score 13 touchdowns, but I think 8 is a reasonable expectation for him this year, and probably 1,100 yards.
See, that's the thing. Evans was the one of those guys that was in pretty much all of the games. He played and started 16 games, so they didn't sit him out. He was the only one that got over 100 targets. Barely made 1,000 yards, 1,006 yards on 70 receptions. That's with Godwin missing 4 games, Brown only appearing in 8 games, and everything else. That's where I would be worried. I don't think he's a lock for 1,000 or 1,100 yards. I think he'll have a great season. He's probably their best receiver in the red zone area. But if you have Brown mixing in there more, they've talked about wanting to get Tyler Johnson involved more. They seem to like Scotty Miller. You have 3 tight ends now. They obviously signed Giovanni Bernard, I'm guessing, because they think he could be more of a receiving back. There's only so many targets, as great as we think Brady is, unless they're going to find a way to throw it 800 times. There's only so much to go around. And you're talking about 5 receivers, 3 tight ends, and 4 running backs potentially being involved before you even count drafts or the randoms that pop up.
So speaking of randoms that pop up, I fully expect that Antonio Brown does not complete the season with the Buccaneers. I feel like
I thought you were going to go a different way with that. Like the boss walked in and put a cup on your desk, and we were like, "Oh, what's going on?"
He's like Eminem in Shady's back. He's settled all his lawsuits.
Yeah,
he's ready to go.
Right. But so does settling his lawsuits make him not crazy? He's going to get out there 3 games in. 3 games in, he's going to have 6 targets, and he's going to be throwing a hissy fit. And Tom Brady and Bruce Arians are going to be like, you know what? Shut up. I'm going to start Tyler Johnson since you're going to be inactive in game 5. Tyler Johnson's going to go out there and catch a few passes. Scotty Miller, he's going to try to slink back in. I just don't think he's got it in him to be the third wheel.
I think he's excited about potentially winning a Super Bowl and playing with Tom Brady, and that'll be enough to keep him here. But even if you saw him get benched for periods of time, it's not like they don't have other people that are going to step in to the rotation. I think they have a great collection and they have a great NFL team. And they have some people that you'd really like to see do well. As somebody who has a lot of shares of Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, I hope you're right that Mike Evans can get 1,100 yards. I hope Chris Godwin can have 1,000 yards season, 100 receptions like he did a couple of years ago. It just seems hard to believe.
Yeah, I would. Godwin was also hurt a lot last year. I wonder if he maybe bounces back a little bit more. I mean, I would
he started 12 games and saw 84 targets. Wasn't that huge of a fall off?
So who would you put your money on, Dennis, to be there? Because I think it's easy to say, at least in my opinion, AB's probably still the third option, if even really viable fantasy wise. I would say at best you're probably looking at a wide receiver 4 for fantasy purposes most weeks, if that. So I think I'm leaning more towards. I actually might say Evans, just because I think he's going to be a red zone threat still. I mean, that's what kind of buoyed him. We talked about that a lot last year. Like there was a couple of games where he had like 15 yards, but 3 touchdowns, and that matters for fantasy. And I could clearly see that happening again this year. So I think I'd probably lean Evans, as much as that hurts me. What about you, Dave?
I think it's going to be Evans by a nose over Godwin, and AB a distant third. I think AB is going to be closer to Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson in stats than he is to Chris Godwin and Mike Evans.
Do you agree with that, Matt?
Fair. Yeah, I mean, I think Evans being the better red zone threat is always going to help him. I expect he's going to be their top touchdown receiver. His biggest competition in the red zone is probably either Howard or Gronk, not another wide receiver.
All right.
Or Fournette pounding it in.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
Okay, we could just keep the list going.
Let's talk about some of these draft props. I pulled a bunch of these up. We'll just kind of give our takes on these and give our thoughts. Most of them are over-unders on what we expect to happen tonight in the draft. Most of these are day 1, some day 2 stuff I'll put in here as well. So we'll start with the first one, 5.5 quarterbacks going in the first round. You going to take the over or the under, Matt?
I'm going to take the under. I think 5 go.
Dennis?
That's where I'm at. I'm at the under now. I did one mock draft. Anywhere else that I've had to submit a full first round mock draft, I have one sheet of integrity, and I do not have a 6th quarterback in the first round, and so therefore I am going 5.
All right. The next one, 4.5 in the top 10. Dennis?
I have the over. I have them all off the board by 10.
Matt, are you over as well?
Yeah, I'm over as well.
As am I, and I just added this one that I saw pop up a little bit ago. This one I think is actually a little bit interesting. Dennis, 6.5 quarterbacks have gone by the end of the second round. So if we're expecting 5 to go in the first, you're saying 1 more is going to go. Good trade. Oh, wow. Sorry.
So I look at this.
Well, he said 6.5, right? That would be 2.
So that means 7. Well, that's what I'm saying. So you're expecting, yeah.
So I view this quarterback class as 5 round 1 quarterbacks and all day 3 quarterbacks. I would go under 6.5. Now I can see being wrong because some team, coaches think, oh, I can fix it. And so they're going to take the Kellen Monds and the Davis Mills and Kyle Trask. So it wouldn't surprise me for it to be 8 by the end of day 2. I just don't think there's really any quarterbacks worth taking there.
I'm going to say under as well. I think at least 1 will go in round 2 and probably 1 in round 3, but I don't think we're going to have 2 go in round 2.
I'm going to go over because I expect Kellen Mond to go with all the love that he is getting. There seems to be a lot of NFL teams that are much higher on him than me specifically and a lot of other people. And there's all this talk about Davis Mills, and we're going to get to his over-under, which I found extremely interesting where they placed that at. That's in the second round. On top of that, I still think there's a shot how Trask goes. So I could see one of, Matt, you've mentioned it before. Maybe they'll trade up and get a quarterback, so it won't matter. But it just seems like the Chicago Bears thing to do to take Kyle Trask in the second round. And if that happens, it's going to go over. And I expect someone to take another one of these guys. So I'm going to take the over. And at least 2 more are going to go by the end of round 2. For the running backs, 1.5 in the first round, Matt.
I'm going under. I think one goes, but not two.
Dennis?
I just had to double check my draft here. I'm at one as well. So
I am going over. I think once one of them goes, whether it's Najee or Travis Etienne, I think the other could go fairly quickly toward the end of the first round, possibly even a team trading up, which I know sounds crazy, but we talked a little bit about this with Ray Garvin last night on the Debbie debate, and these teams are really moving heavily toward keeping these running backs on those rookie contracts and then just moving on from them. Getting one of these guys with that fifth year, not having to pay much, especially if you're in Miami or a New York Jets, maybe trading back. Well, I think the Jets actually are going to take ETN with their second pick. Someone coming up into the back end of the first, you don't usually have to pay as much. And I think they could easily pay that to jump up to get one of those running backs. So I'm going to go over.
You could be. I mean, our friend Ricky took 3 in the first round in his mock.
I wouldn't doubt it. There's a lot of people who have been talking about now. There are a bunch of NFL teams who think Javonte is the best running back in this class. And so I really think because of the perceived, not just for fantasy, but NFL circles as well, the perceived drop off after those 3, if one goes in, say, like the early 20s, I would not be surprised if we see some movement and those other 2 guys go, just because I don't think Kenneth Gainwell is the only one that I think is really intriguing to me. I mean, I love Jamar Jefferson, but I've said before, I think landing spot is a little bit more dependent for him. Outside of those 2, there's not a lot of guys I trust that could go somewhere in like the second round and be like immediate impact players. So I really think there's a good shot that at least 2 go today. If 3 just seems crazy to me, but then there's all the smoke about Buffalo maybe just taking another one because that's what they feel they need. That's all they feel they need, and that's even crazy.
And Matt Breida is next.
See the videos of Devin Singletary working out like Austin Eckler and looking bulked up and quick. He's got his burst now. You didn't see the videos on Twitter?
I haven't, and I'm guessing neither has the Buffalo Bills front office because there's a lot of talk that they want to take a running back. So I don't think they've been watching his workout videos either. 4.5 in the first 2 rounds for running backs. So again, you're looking at 2 more going in round 2. For you guys, I'm sorry, 2 more for me. 3 more for you guys going in that round 2 area to get over here.
I think 4.5 in 2 rounds. I'm taking the under.
I'm taking the under as well. I think 4, but not 5.
Yeah, I am leaning the same.
If you went day 2, through round 3 with day 2, then it's a different story. But I just think through the first 2 rounds, it'll be something. In my mock, I don't have the Steelers taking a running back in the first round because I feel like there's enough depth at the running back position that they could get a guy that suits their system in round 2 or 3. That guy, I believe, is Trey Sermon. And they need to replace Mike Pouncey or Marquise Pouncey, whichever Pouncey brother was playing for them. So I actually have them taking Creed Humphrey at center. Yeah. So I think they go center in the first round and lock that down and then take that running back a little bit later.
Although it is the ultimate Steelers move to just draft a linebacker in the first round and call it good.
That is true. Which one are we on? So let's move on to the wide receivers here. 4.5 in round 1.
I think I've got
over
5 or 6 going. Let me see.
Yeah, I'm going over.
Yeah, I'm going over fairly comfortably.
Yes, so am I. So I wonder if this makes it even easier than for you guys. 9.5 by the end of round 2.
I really didn't do a ton of work calculating who might go where in the second. So it makes me a little bit nervous to say, that would be 4 more. So based on the guys that I have going, that's going to leave I think I'm going to take the under.
Okay.
I'm going to go over. I think we see at least 10.
Yeah, I'm with you, Matt. I think I've got 5, I think, in the first round, and I think at least 5 more go in the second round. There's just a lot of wide receivers that I think a lot of teams are going to fall in love with, and a lot of teams that need them as well. So I would not be surprised if we see more than 5, but I think at least 5 go there in the second round.
Well, and that's just the thing, though, is that when there's a lot of them, then they tend to start to slide a little bit because teams go, oh, well, I like 3 guys here. And if I don't take one here and I there's only one of this position I like, I'll take that and come back here and 20 picks or whatever, 30 picks and I'll still have my choice of these 3 or 4 that I still like.
Yeah, the only reason I think it's likely to happen, at least for me, is I don't think there's as deep a defensive classes here. So I don't know if the teams will be like, well, I'm going to take this defensive player here and let these wide receivers fall, because even though the wide receiver class is deep, I think when you start getting to the point where teams are looking at, well, he's the best player on our board, I think when you get to the second round, some of those wide receivers are going to be the best player on the board. Now, not every team drafts BPA. Some do draft for team need, even though Bill Parcells, I can't remember what his quote is on that now, but it's not to do that is the easiest way to put that. So it'll be interesting. But I think you're going to see 5 go in round 1 and 5 go in round 2. Tight ends, 1.5 in round 1, Mr. Fox.
I'm going under. I think Pitts is the only one that comes off.
I would agree.
I'm going to add another one here. 3.5 by the end of day 2. So that's including round 3.
So I think that Freiermuth goes. So then we come down to Tremble, Jordan. Who else is up there? Hunter Long.
Yeah.
So
Yaboa,
what was the number? 3.5.
3.5. So four have gone by the end of day 2, by the end of round 3.
I'm going to take the under. I think 3 go, but I don't think a lot of people are aggressive on tight end in this draft.
I think I agree. I'm taking the under, and the reason is that tight ends take time to develop, even when they're really good. And after Pitts, there's a pretty good drop to Freiermuth, and then there's a pretty good drop to Tremble and Jordan Long. So you're looking at pretty developmental tight end players easily in the end of the top 5. So, yeah, I'm going to go under.
I'm going to go over. I think there's a shot that 4 could go. We've seen teams, while I agree that it takes a little bit longer for some of these guys to develop, we've seen these teams take guys like a Drew Sample way before they should because they're good blockers. And it's not just Drew Sample. I mean, you can just it's littered with tight ends you probably should not have taken that high. But Tommy Tremble and both Hunter Long are considered like very, very good blockers, especially for where they are in their college careers and coming into the NFL. So I could see maybe even a run-heavy team being like, you know what? We'll take that guy at this point at the end of round 3, maybe before they get into round 4. So I'm going to go slight over. I think one of those guys could sneak in because I do think I would be very surprised if Freiermuth and Jordan are not off the board by at least toward the end of round 3. I think Freiermuth for sure is going in the second. I think Jordan should. I'm very high on both of those guys. So then it's just coming into does Long or Tremble, Yaboa, any of those guys sneak into the back end of the third, and I think it's possible one of them could.
Yeah, Ricky actually had Freiermuth going in the first in that mock.
You know what? I would not be surprised. I think a lot of people forget how good he is because he got injured and just kind of opted out for the rest of last season. But again, you don't get the nickname Baby Gronk for no reason. And that's not like fantasy analysts calling him that. That's like what people in the NFL circles were calling him that. You don't just get that nickname for no reason. So I think that he's a very underrated tight end right now. What pick will Davis Mills go by? Over under on 60.5.
Over for me.
Yep, over.
Oh, this is so hard because clearly, at least the NFL thinks something with him. There's too much smoke here I don't see it. I really don't. But
I mean, that 60.5 puts him in the second round.
I know. That's why I brought up earlier about the quarterback one. But that's the thing. We heard just a couple weeks ago all these people talking about there's a chance that a team might trade it back into the first to take him at pick 31 or 32, which is insane to me because I don't even think he's worth I don't think he's worth a third round pick, a fourth round pick. You want to take a shot on it, or I have to take shit to that. You want to take a shot at him in the fourth because he had all the tools coming out of high school and he's had moments of brilliance at Stanford. Okay, whatever. I can buy that. First round, just so you can get that fifth-year option, Mike, that's how you get fired as a general manager. So I'm going to go over as well, but I think out of all the ones, that's the one that I'd be the least surprised if he ends up going early second round, just because of all the smoke and everything we've heard with him. Devonta Smith, over under 11.5.
I'm going over, slight over.
I have him going 12 to Philly, so I'm taking the over.
Interesting. God, this is so difficult. I'm going to go under.
Well,
I think there's a shot
you submitted and go by that.
But
no, he doesn't like his mock draft.
I don't like my mock draft number one. I don't even remember where I put it, to be honest with you. I don't know where I saved it at.
There, I'll see where you have him.
I think I have him go to the Patriots at 15. No, I don't think I did.
No, you had Mike.
Thank you, Hollywood.
Patriots.
I'm pretty sure I had
at 11 to the Giants.
There we go. See, I'm trusting myself here. I honestly think he's going to be the second wide receiver off the board. It's either going to be Waddle or Chase, and I think Smith's going to be the second. So I don't remember who I had going off first. Was it Waddle to Miami, right?
Let me look.
Because I'm pretty sure I had Chase.
Yeah, you had Waddle at 6, Chase at 7, and then Smith is the third receiver at 11.
Well, then I was wrong on being the second one, but hey, I still had
I have Waddle going 13.
And then because you hate the Eagles, you have them taking Terrace Marshall at 12.
That's just because I feel like that's an Eagles move to make. Yeah, now that I remember. Now I remember who I put in the Eagles. That does make a little bit more sense there. So that answers my question on Jamar Chase, and I'm going over because I have him at 7 to Detroit. Matt, where are you going with Jamar Chase? Over or under at 6?
I had him at 7 too, so I'm going over.
I'm taking the under. I put Chase going 4 to Atlanta. I think they're going to draft Chase and trade Julio.
All right.
They're not going to trade Julio tonight, but
hey, just a quick question: if Kyle Pitts goes to Atlanta, how are you feeling about your Hayden Hurst shares?
I was only in redraft, so I don't care. No, it's just redraft that I had him last year. That's why he pissed me off.
Because I just remember you had like tons every week. It was
Well, it was just that one big money league where I drafted him because I never reach for tight end. I always wait until it's like, what do we do? 18 rounds, I think. So I typically wait till like rounds 12 through 15, 16 to grab a tight end. And for whatever reason this year, I was like, you know what? No, there's not really a lot on the board. I think it was like the 8th or 9th round. I loved it. I was like, I'm just going to take Hayden Hurst. I think he's going to be a top 5 tight end. That pissed me off every single week because it was always the weeks because I ended up getting Mike Gesicki as well because someone dropped him after he had a bad week and I picked him up. He had that one good week with Ryan Fitzpatrick before they benched Fitzpatrick. And then just imagine that going back and forth between both of those subpar tight ends every single week. And I always played the wrong one. I played Hayden Hurst in a good matchup. Gesicki went off. Played Gesicki in the good matchup. Hurst went off. And so it was very frustrating all year long. I was not happy with either one of those guys.
Because I would listen to who you were going to play and then I'd know who not to play.
Went the other way. That's probably what most people
You helped a lot of people.
That's the best part of my advice. So we're going to stick with Jalen Waddle because he's the only other wide receiver we have here. The over-under is at 11.5. I'm obviously going under because I had him there at Miami. Dennis, which way did you go with Waddle?
11.5. I have him I have the over at 13. I have him going 13.
I'm the under too because I have him going to Miami as well.
All right. Jamie Newman, who I don't believe any of us are high on, but they have him here on the board. It was one of the only other quarterbacks on there, so I put him on. Over under at 170. I'm going to be honest, I don't even know what round that's in.
You know what? I was thinking that was the end of the 6th round, but then I remember there's 256 picks, so that's got to be like the 4th or 5th round. So I'm changing what I had on there. I'm going over because I thought in the 6th round makes some sense. But in the 4th round, probably makes less sense.
Well,
Yes.
no. So 170, if you divide it by 32, that's 5.3 rounds.
But
So
it's
that
not
doesn't-
exactly
Right. There's
32
some
because
compensation picks. So it may be early 5th. It doesn't matter. I'm going to take the over on an undrafted free agent level quarterback.
I mean, hey, I agree with you there. I just don't. I'm going to go over, but I think he's better than Davis Mills. So that's just the thing. I mean, you got Davis Mills. They're capping. Vegas has those big buildings for a reason, and they're putting Davis Mills at 60. I feel like that. There's got to be something that they know that we don't. But I'm going over as well. I don't see it with Newman. I don't think he's that great. And another player that I'm not high on, but I do think the NFL is going to be, and that's Kadarius Toney. They have him set at 27.5. Matt, which way are you going with this?
I'm going over.
Dennis?
I'm taking the over. I have him going 29 to Green Bay.
I have the over as well. Yeah, I think
play
that would
with,
really
Jordan
facilitate
Love.
Aaron Rodgers out. Yeah, that's really going to facilitate Aaron Rodgers wanting to leave the team. If it weren't for all the Elijah Moore hype coming up all of a sudden, and Kadarius Toney's got could go to Tennessee, but I think that's where Moore is going to go tonight. And so I actually don't think Toney's going to go in the first round. I think he falls out and goes early second somewhere. So I'm going over as well. Pitts, I feel like this is a very interesting one. I really just kind of comes down to what you think they're going to do at 4 and 5 with Atlanta and Cincinnati. But they have him at 5.5. Dennis, are you going over or under?
I have him going 5 to Cincinnati, so I'm taking the under.
I have him going 4 to Atlanta, so I'm taking the under.
I think I'm going over. I don't think I had him going to Atlanta or
Well,
Cincinnati. I don't remember where I put my sheet at. I can't find it. The other one I have saved on my computer is blank.
You have him going 4 to Atlanta,
So that would be under. I changed my mind. Trask,
good that I'm here
77.
for you.
Thank you. Yes, I do appreciate it. I'm I don't know where I put that sheet. I know I sent it to you, but I don't. I thought
to be fair, I was the one that compiled them to publish, so I should have it.
Trask here is coming in at 77.5. For me to, I guess it doesn't have to be Trask. It could be Davis Mills, but I'm going to go under. I do think he gets drafted somewhere in the second round. So I will take the under. Dennis, where are you going?
That's 77, so that's
Early third.
early to mid third, so at 64, so that'd be about 313, 314. I'm gonna take the over.
Okay.
I'm going to take the over as well. I think he probably goes in the third, but a little bit later because, if where we're projecting all those quarterbacks going up high, I would imagine most of those early part of the draft teams have taken their quarterback.
Najee Harris, 32.5. Matt, where are you going here with Najee?
Under 24, Pittsburgh.
Dennis, is he your one running back you had going in the first round?
He is not.
Oh, okay.
So I have the over. And it's just because the NFL has devalued running backs. The one running back I have going in the first round, I actually have a team trading back into the first to take him.
Is it ETN?
It is.
ETN. All right. ETN, then I guess that answers it for you and under at 35.5. Matt, which way did you go with ETN?
I went under as well because the Jets have pick 34. If he goes in the top of the second, I think it's in the first 3 picks.
I'm going under as well. I think I put 2 earlier, so I think both of them are going to go in the first round.
You had Etienne going at pick 23 to the Jets and Harris going at 24 to the Steelers.
I will not be surprised, honestly, if 3 running backs go in the first round or if no running backs go in the first round. But when I did my mock, I was.
What about if 6 running backs go in the first round?
That I would be surprised about.
Yeah, so would I.
Because at least one of them is going to be, it's going to be like, I don't know, Demetric Felton and his .091 relative athletic score.
Hey,
but anyway,
you don't know what that rock, paper, scissors experience was like with Nick Sirianni.
You are correct.
Jarrett Patterson
ask my wife. I am an excellent Rochambeau player, but I have the Jets trading back in with the Ravens up to 31 and taking ETN with their 3rd first-round pick.
Now, a lot of people you're good.
Go ahead.
You're good at rock, paper, scissors. Are you also good at rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock?
Now, my wife tried to throw dynamite in there, and I'm like, what the hell you mean dynamite? There's no dynamite in rock, paper, scissors.
It can be whatever you want. Be whatever you want. That's the whole point of the game. Trey Lance at 6.5. Dennis, you going over or under?
I'm going under. I have Lance going 3 to San Francisco.
Like to apologize to San Francisco after having endured 16 months of lockdown, now getting Trey Lance foisted upon you. I am going slightly over.
I am going over as well, but I kind of like blanked out there a minute earlier in the stream. You got like went quiet is because there was a thing that came out on Twitter that said the reason New Orleans is trying to trade up into the top 10 is because they think Mac Jones is going to be available. So I think all signs are pointing toward Trey Lance is going to San Francisco now.
Justin mother effing Fields.
I mean, I agree, but
either the Jets or the 49ers.
I will say we talked about what you and me talked about on the podcast. I'm pretty sure we talked about that on air Monday. I know we talked a little bit about it off air, but I'm pretty sure we talked about it on air as well. I gave your theory to Austin and Ray, and they both said that they think that could be very viable and the reason that he goes there too. I just am not going to believe it until I see it. I hope that's what happens. I'm not going to believe it until I see it.
Well, to be fair, that's not necessarily my theory. I've seen people talking about it on Twitter that
it's your theory now. I credited it to you on the show, so now everybody thinks it's yours.
That's good. Well, please direct all of your hate mail to @SportsFanaticMB on Twitter.
No, just send it to @RoundtableFF. I'm pretty sure we don't check those DMs anyway. So
no,
just
wait,
send it there. I know, but you can just ignore them. Don't worry about it. All right, so trades in the first round over or under at 4.5. Matt.
Now, can we get a clarification? Is this including the trades?
Tonight, not counting the San Francisco trade.
That was my only, because if we're counting like all the trades, I think there's already been 3, and I'm then I'm like, but 4.5 tonight, I don't think there's 5 or more trades tonight, so I'm taking the under.
Dennis?
Did you come to me yet?
Yeah, I said, yeah. You're good.
I have. I think one of the things I had questions on my mock draft I did with Chris Pizzoli is how many trades in the first round tonight. And I picked 4, so I'm taking the under. So in my actual mock draft I submitted, I only projected 3 trades, which. There's some cognitive dissonance going on there, but I'm adjusting.
Hey, this is what the draft's all about. Why do you think these guys issue like 95 mock drafts before the actual day of?
Yeah, I'm going under as well. I think there's a realistic shot that they get possibly 4, but I don't know if they get to 5. Last 2, and then we will get out of here as we are getting closer to, I believe the draft starts in 30 minutes, so we will be right up against it here. Will A-Rob, Allen Robinson be traded during the draft? Any of the 3 days, Dennis?
No.
Matt, do you agree?
Yeah, I was going no too. Maybe I missed something. Has there been a lot of talk that he's a draft day trade?
I don't know. It was one of the
Not that
only
I've
few
heard.
trade things on multiple prop bet sites. So I
Didn't
assume
they
there's
just franchise tag him?
They did, but they could still
They
trade
did.
him. I'm going yes, just because I hope Allen Robinson goes to a team that is going to help him. So I'm going to say yes just for fun.
He's probably
And
going
then
to Tampa
I
Bay.
don't think I
gonna
don't
trade
think you
Scotty
should
Miller.
slander Dalton like that. I mean, he supported AJ Green as a wide receiver 1 for how many years in Cincinnati?
it's
I
not
think the
that I
guy
don't
to
trust
worry
Andy
about
Dalton.
is Darnell Mooney and the ghost of Anthony Miller.
And Rashad
Robinson's
Bateman when he
gonna
gets
get
drafted at 20.
It's more Matt Nagy I don't trust than anybody else. It's not necessarily Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton I think is going to be fine. It's more Matt Nagy screwing things up there in Chicago that I think is going to.
Well, we
Gonna
saw
do that.
Kyle Trask support 2 good receivers in college, and Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney. So, I mean, maybe he can get Allen Robinson the ball.
That's true. Maybe they're going to trade up and take Justin Fields, and I'm going to cry myself to sleep tonight. So we'll see what happens. I really hope. That's the one place I mean, I could endure the Patriots. I cannot endure him going to the Bears. I really cannot.
So is it because of Nagy? Is that why you don't want him to go to the Bears? Is it because of Nagy?
Kind of, yeah. Because I
I mean,
feel like if he
because
goes
what
there,
if
he's
you-
going to be good, and they're going to win, so they're not going to fire him. And then they're just going to stay there, and I don't know.
So they're
I
not
can't
going to
handle it.
win
I just
this
can't handle
year, though. They're not going to win this year, though. So Nagy will be gone.
We'll see. I don't know. I've already made the bold statement. I can't back off it now just to piss Felix off that wherever Fields goes, if he's the starter, they're making the playoffs. So I'm all in. So if he goes to the Bears, I'm all in on them making the playoffs.
You're notorious
who are they
for
gonna
getting a little
compete
hot
with?
under the collar and making those crazy ass statements. So
The Vikings are probably going to be 500 again. You got the Packers are going to be Rogerless more than likely. Detroit's not competing this year. I mean, they're shooing to win the division at this point, I think. So, getting Justin Fields is just icing on the cake. All right, last one here. Jimmy Garoppolo will be traded during the draft, Matt.
Initially, I thought no, but I feel like he is going to get traded somewhere.
I'm
Dennis?
like a 53-47 lean yes.
I am going to go no just because I do believe that they're going to go Lance, and I just don't think he's ready to start yet. So I think they keep Jimmy G for this 1 year. They move him next year.
But everybody
and it's a
says that Lance
transition.
is the most pro-ready, one of the most pro-ready. He spent more time playing in a pro-style offense than any of the other guys.
I
Haven't
don't
you
listen
read
to
that?
ESPN, so I don't know that they've been saying
I have
that.
not heard anyone say that.
Oh.
I mean, let's not jump into that. That's just we're just gonna go down a dark road here with all these bad narratives. So the draft is gonna start here in about 20 minutes. Everybody, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Dennis, I didn't see if you answered my question, so I know that we are switching around schedules here soon. Is it starting next week that you'll be joining us on Mondays, or is it the week after?
No, it's next week.
Awesome. So you
Or
will
no,
catch
maybe-
the three of
yeah.
us now. It's
Yeah,
May
yeah,
5th
next
next
week.
week, so I wanted to double check just to be safe. Okay. So next week,
Yeah.
starting next week, we will have the Monday shows will now be the three of us. Thursdays will just be Matt and myself. So Dennis will be here with us as we get to break down everything that happened on the draft this weekend. There was something we were supposed to talk about, Matt, superhero wise, that I can't remember now. We joked about Dennis wouldn't want to be here for that part of the conversation.
We were going to revisit our top Marvel because you were.
Oh
you
yeah,
had
that's
time
right.
to do
I
your
still haven't
ranking.
I still haven't had a chance to rank them, so you lucked out there, Dennis. Maybe we'll save it for draft coverage on Monday.
Oh,
But
he didn't luck out that much because he'll be back on Monday.
well, that's true. So we will recap everything that goes down in the draft this weekend on Monday. Enjoy the draft, everybody, and we look forward to talking to you guys again on Monday.